So we're continuing with the lectures for week 1. This time we're going to be talking about adding and subtracting fractions, and we're going to start with some simpler ones and then move on to the more difficult questions. This section, this video is actually really important because the ideas that we talk about here are the same ideas that we're going to use later this semester in week 8, I believe, when we talk about adding and subtracting rational expressions. So remember, when you're adding and subtracting fractions, you need a common denominator. That means the bottom of the fractions needs to be the same. And we're going to make sure that we keep the denominator when we're adding and subtracting. People get a little bit confused because when we start solving equations, we get rid of the denominator, but that's not what we're doing here. We don't have an equation. This isn't equal to some number. We just have an expression. Oops, why did it do that? There we go. So you can see in both of these examples, we have a common denominator of C. So we're going to keep the denominator in both of these questions. And we're going to add the numerators here. We're going to subtract the numerators here. So if we look at our first example, 17 over 21, subtract 10 over 21, they both have a denominator of 21. So I can simply subtract the numerators. In this case, it gives me 7 over 21. And we see here that these are both divisible by 7. So we can simplify this to 1 over 3. You should always simplify. Pause your video and add the next set of fractions. Sometimes people leave out this step that I've just written here, but I think this step is important because I want to be really clear that that denominator belongs to both numerators. It's going to be a useful step in understanding when we move into week 8 and working with rational expressions. Again, we can see that this can be simplified. Maybe we could practice prime factoring for our simplifying. We see that there's a 2 divided by 2, another 2 divided by 2. And so our simplified answer, 5 over 9. Hope you got that. I've put a video link in here for you in case you want to watch some other videos about adding and subtracting fractions. But remember, when these video links aren't in your notes, they can be found on the class Moodle page. Now we want to look at more difficult adding and subtracting of fractions. If you look at the examples at the bottom of the screen here, you see that the denominators are different. The first thing we want to do is find the lowest common multiple of the denominators. Sometimes that's called the LCD, the lowest common denominator. So LCD, the lowest common multiple of the denominators. We talked about lowest common multiples in our last video lecture. We want to create equivalent fractions. We also talked about finding equivalent fractions in an earlier video. We have to multiply the numerator and the denominator by missing factors. We add or subtract over that common denominator, and then simplify if possible. Now I want to make a note here. I'm even going to use my red pen for this one because it's important. Always use the lowest common multiple of the denominators. When I verify your test with you, when I verify your final exam with you, if you're not using the lowest common multiple, you will lose marks. Also, when we get to week 8 and we're working with rational expressions, if you're not using the lowest common multiple of the denominator, you're going to create a question that's so difficult, it will be hard to get to the right answer. So let's use these steps and answer the first question here. So the first step says to find the lowest common multiple of the denominators. So we're looking at 4 and 6. I hope you know without doing any work that the lowest common multiple here is 12. So I know that 12 is going to be my common denominator. We need equivalent fractions. I can't write 3 plus 1 here. This would be very wrong because that 3 is not over 12. That 1 is not over 12. So we can't do that. We have to multiply by the missing factors. So what's missing? I know that 3 times 4 is 12. That means I'm going to multiply the numerator and the denominator. Let me get rid of that. There we go. I know that 6 times 2 is 12. So I'm going to multiply the numerator and the denominator. So we have 9 over 12 plus 2 over 12. That gives us 11 over 12. Pause your video and try the next question. We're looking for the lowest common multiple of 14 and 21. I hope you see that it's 42. If you're not certain, you can prime factor. Remember, when we're finding the lowest common multiple, we need all of 14 and we need all of 21. I already have the 7, now I need the 3. We need to multiply by what's missing. Well, I can see that 14 is missing a 3 here. So I'm going to multiply the numerator and the denominator by 3. I can see I'm missing a 2 here. So I'm going to multiply the numerator and the denominator by 2. So we have 27 minus 10. Just a quick word about simplifying. When I look at the prime factors of 42, 2 times 7 times 3, and then I look at my numerator here, there's no 17 in 42. And 17 is a prime number. So I know this cannot be simplified any further. Two more questions. Pause your video, try the first one. So our lowest common multiple here is 9 times 16. $144. We have to multiply by what's missing. Well, when I look at the 18, I see that it's missing 3 2s. So I'm multiplying by 8. When I look at the 16, I see that it's missing a factor of 2 3s, or 9. So we've got 9 times 3 is 27 plus 56. Again, when I'm thinking about simplifying, 144 has these factors. 83, do you remember? It's a prime number. I can't simplify any further. Pause your video, try the next one. Oops, why am I writing that? Our lowest common multiple is 120. We have to multiply by the missing factors. Here I can see that 12 is missing a factor of 2 and a factor of 5, so I need to multiply by 10. $40 is missing a factor of 3, so I'm going to multiply the numerator and the denominator by 3. 10 times 5 minus 9. I should say, I don't know if I've been mentioning that through these videos. At any time that you need to listen to something again, please rewind, listen again, pause, take your time, do what you need to do for this to make sense. I think it's a good idea now for you to go to your homework in Pearson, find those homework assignments, and do some practice.